Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I am Deepika Mehto, and coming up in the next 1 hour. Prime Minister Narendra Modi reiterates not the time for war in India-Austria joint statement at Vienna. Prime Minister Modi held a high-level business meeting with Austrian Chancellor as well. Prime Minister Narendra Modi received ceremonial reception at Federal Chancellery in Austria. Prime Minister also signed the guest book at the Federal Chancellery in Vienna. US President Joe Biden pledges to forcefully defend Ukraine against Russia at the NATO summit in Washington. New commitments of military aid to Ukraine announced. And Spain beat France to reach Euro 2024 final to face the winner of the match between England versus the Netherlands. Now, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Austrian Chancellor Karl Nehammer, along with others, attended the India-Austria business meeting in Vienna. About 40 businesses from India and Australia took part in the meeting. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi was also accorded a ceremonial reception with the national anthems of India and Austria at Federal Chancellery in Vienna. Austrian Chancellor Karl Nehammer also accompanied Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Prime Minister Narendra Modi also signed a guest book. Now, this is the first time an Indian Prime Minister has visited Austria in 41 years. The leaders also held delegation-level talks at Federal Chancellery in Vienna. Several regional issues and political, along with economic issues, were discussed between the leaders. Austrian Ambassador to India, Katharina Weiser, talks about the first visit of an Indian Prime Minister in over 40 years. And with this year, it also marks the 75 years of the bilateral relationship between India and Austria.
This is really a very important visit for us. It is the first visit of an Indian Prime Minister, as you mentioned, after 41 years to Austria, 40 years after an Austrian Federal Chancellor visited India. And this visit is taking place in a year when we are celebrating 75 years of bilateral relations. So we are happy about that fact also, that this high-level visit is now sort of a manifestation of the very good place that we are in at the level of our bilateral relations.
The ambassador also mentioned about the economic relations of both the countries, highlighting it as the most important part of the bilateral relationship between India and Austria.
Our bilateral economic and business relationship is a very important central part of our bilateral relationship. We have been improving that also over the past years. There's more interest, not only from Austrian companies, but also from other companies. There's a more international focus and interest also in what is happening in India. And also from Austrian company side, obviously, we have 150 Austrian, so subsidiaries of Austrian companies in India.
And now I'm joined by DD India's Gautam Roy from Vienna. A very good evening from India, Gautam. Now, after Prime Minister Russia visit, Vienna as the next destination is being seen as a very well-planned visit for the Prime Minister, considering Vienna's importance in the European Union bloc. And also, if you talk about the joint address, it began with a statement that said what unites India and Austria is the concern over development of geopolitical situation. How do you look at this development on the political front for both the countries, Gautam?
Well, good afternoon from Vienna, Deepika. It is, of course, a momentous occasion where Prime Minister Modi has met his Austrian counterpart, Federal Chancellor Karl Nehammer, at the Federal Chancellery. They've had their talks and they've made the press statements as well, which have clearly underlined, since Austria is an integral part of Europe, the European concerns on behalf of Chancellor Nehammer, the concerns that they have due to the war or the conflict, as we term it, in Ukraine. And he has very clearly stated what sort of an invention he has been making along with Europe in that war. And India has also been very clear. Prime Minister Modi very clearly said that he's mentioned in the past as well that a solution cannot be found through the battlefield, and this is not the time for warfare. And he's very clearly said that territorial integrity should be respected. The violence has also been talked about there and has been condemned. The Prime Minister also mentioned in his media statement the twin problems that confront the entire humanity, which is terrorism and climate change. So all these issues have been brought together very well. But the meat of the part that was there was the shared values that India and Austria have, India being the largest democracy in the world, Austria being one as well. So democracy is one value, and rule of law as well, the Prime Minister mentioned. And if you talk about how these ties are being advanced, the bilateral ties, the Prime Minister very clearly said that now a strategic turn is being given to the ties. A roadmap for the next 10 years is being identified, because the Prime Minister very clearly said that ties need to be elevated from mere economics to strategic, be it in infrastructure or in other frontier technologies, where both Austria and India are leading in some manners, in certain respects, and if they come together, it can be quite a combination.
And also, because we've seen that in the past also, Austria believes in expanding traditional ties, and both the countries share around more than 200 collaborations projects till now. But now they are also looking forward to explore sectors like quantum, waste, water management, etc. How would this economically benefit both India and Austria, Gautam?
Well, there is a tremendous scope there. The Chancellor mentioned that the trade right now is 2.7 billion euros. That is roughly around $3 billion as well. And investments too need to be ramped up because if you add them up, Indian companies in Austria and Austrian companies in India is about 1.8 billion US dollars, and this needs to go up. And for that purpose, new areas of collaboration, that's where the focus was, were identified, be it renewable energy, you mentioned hydrogen, there's semiconductors as well, where India has a very successful PLI scheme going for a lot of sectors as well, which can be taken advantage of by even foreign companies if they have projects in that sense. And in waste management, there's wealth to waste, energy to waste, recycling. There are a lot of things that Austria does where there can be synergies that can be found. And quantum is another area, because the PM will be meeting a very prominent personality, a Nobel Prize winner in physics as well later on in the day. And he's done amazing work in quantum entanglement, which has amazing futuristic applications in teleportation. That's also being said that because communication can be faster than the speed of light, it can lead to supercoding and so many other applications as well, where the future is concerned. And all these areas are where India and Austria are targeting to benefit mutually.
A very quick last question. What are the later events that we are expecting in the day today, Gautam?
Well, we've already seen the conclusion of the India-Austria business meeting, or the CEO's meeting, as it was also called. About 40 odd companies, a dozen from India and 28, I think, from Austria, have taken part in that and given a roadmap of collaboration on the business front, especially where niche technologies, the cutting-edge technologies are concerned. To the two leaders as well, they've addressed this business forum as well. And now, of course, the calling on the Austrian President Alexander von der Bellen will be unfolding as we speak. And then, of course, the big ticket event would be the Prime Minister's address or interaction with the Indian diaspora in Sofia and Saleh a little later on in the afternoon, following the lunch that is now, of course, taking place already with the business leaders and the two executive heads of the governments.
All right. Thank you so much, Gautam, for joining us and bringing us all the latest update with a rounded perspective from Ground Zero. It's now time to take a quick and short break here on DD India News Hour, but still to come on the other side. Russia says closely monitoring NATO summit in Washington. And US President Joe Biden meets union leaders as Democrats' call to exit race continue.
We just don't bring you the news as it unfolds. We get to the heart of the matter.
We don't just present facts, we demystify complex social, political and economic events.
We break stories that shape the world's present and future because you deserve the truth.
I am Tanvi Taneja from New Delhi.
I'm Ollie Barrett from London.
I'm Nick Harper from Washington, D.C.
Join us on DD India Global Monday to Friday at these times.
Welcome back after that short break. You're watching DD India News Hour with me, Deepika. And now let's get you an update from the NATO summit. World leaders have gathered in Washington for the NATO summit as the organization celebrates its 75th anniversary. French President Emmanuel Macron and British Prime Minister Keir Starmer arrived in Washington on Tuesday, marking his inaugural appearance at a global summit since taking office. Prior to his departure, Starmer pledged to honour his campaign promise to boost UK defence spending to 2.5% of the GDP, but emphasised that this increase would only occur when fiscally feasible.
In relation to defence more generally, we will carry out our strategic review to look at the challenges, the capabilities, and on the back of that make further plans. I am committed to that 2.5% within our fiscal rules, but that strategic review needs to come first. But today, in tomorrow and the next day, is all about standing together with our allies, discussing practically how we provide further support for Ukraine and send a very, very clear message to Putin that we will stand against Russian aggression wherever it is in the world.
Now, NATO Chief Jens Stoltenberg urged the leaders of Transatlantic Security Alliance to maintain support for Ukraine in its war against Russia's invasion, declaring that the outcome of the conflict would shape global security for decades. And to discuss more on this, I'm joined by DD India's Nick Harper, who's joining us straight from Washington, D.C. A very good evening, Nick, from India. Now, leaders of NATO's 32 member countries are meeting in the United States as the military alliance marks its 75th anniversary. But this also stands as a litmus test for Joe Biden. Earlier, there have been reports that a neurologist visited 8 times to the White House. What's there for Biden here?
Yeah, Deepika, you're right. We've got dozens of world leaders here in Washington, D.C., and yet really all eyes are on Joe Biden to see how he performs over the next few days. The White House had to push back during Tuesday's briefing with reporters on those visits by the neurologist to the White House. Again, the press secretary saying that the US president is not being treated for Parkinson's, that the neurologist has only seen Biden 3 times over the last 3.5 years, and that was during his annual physical, as would be normal procedure. We saw Joe Biden on Tuesday evening in a speech marking the 75th anniversary of the alliance, really making a forceful case for support for Ukraine. The headlines here in Washington this Wednesday morning suggesting that Joe Biden did what he needed to do, that he seemed competent in the job, that he spoke well, he spoke fluently, even though he was using a teleprompter. And I think in many ways the next couple of days days for Biden is all about reassuring those NATO allies that he is up to the job, that if he gets re-elected, he has the mental agility for another 4 years in office, because there is that concern from NATO allies that Donald Trump might return to the White House. Remember, he is a NATO skeptic. He's suggested that he might even pull the US out of NATO. He certainly suggested that he would not come to the military aid of other NATO members if they were attacked, if they hadn't given enough financial support to the alliance. So all eyes on Biden, with the worry about Trump in the backdrop. And I think the next couple of days, with those speeches, in particular Thursday when he has a solo press conference, will be very closely watched by politicians here in Washington, but also from leaders around the world who've gathered in DC for this summit.
Indeed, all eyes will be on that also. But once again, when we talk about the issues, the Russia-Ukraine conflict will be discussed. Do we expect a consensus on peace building or more military aid to keep the conflict going, Nick?
I mean, I think it's the latter of the two. There isn't a suggestion that the alliance is trying to push ahead with peace talks, the main reason being that Russia has not really shown any desire for that to happen, or at least it wouldn't do so without giving back all of the territory that it's captured from Ukraine. So really it's pushing ahead with how the alliance can help from a military perspective, how it can help Ukraine in its fight. And we've also already had the announcement that the alliance will be providing 5 new air defense systems coming from a combination of countries, including the US, Italy, the Netherlands and Romania. We're likely to see an announcement that a command base will be produced and created in Germany to train Ukrainian troops. More announcements about ammunition and arms, including those shoulder-mounted Stinger missiles. Many of those things that President Zelensky of Ukraine has been asking for. And I think it will be that real forceful message from the alliance that they're supporting Ukraine and that they will continue to front that military aid, that financial aid that Ukraine has been asking for.
All right, thank you so much, Nick, for joining us and bringing us the latest on the NATO summit. Now, earlier, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky urged the US political leaders in Washington not to wait for the outcome of America's November presidential election to move forcefully to aid his country against Russia.
It's time to step out of the shadows, to make strong decisions work, to act and not to wait for November or any other month to this end. We must be strong and uncompromising all together. And first of all, America. And first of all, the leaders of America. And the President of the United States as a leader of the free world. To be uncompromising in defending democracy. Uncompromising against Putin and his coterie. Uncompromising to every possible terror. Exactly what all Ukrainians were on the 24th of February 2022. Millions of the people of the world and millions of Americans, exactly what President Biden and the Congress were on the 24th of February.
Now, Moscow is closely monitoring the NATO summit in Washington. The Kremlin says NATO has regularly declared its aim to inflict a strategic defeat on Russia on the battlefield and is taking part directly in the Ukrainian conflict on the side of Ukraine. DD India's Dasha Chernyshova has more from Moscow.
Moscow says it will closely monitor a NATO summit in Washington as the alliance is fighting on Kyiv's side. Russian presidential spokesman Dmitry Peskov said Moscow would follow with the greatest attention the rhetoric at the talks and the decisions that will be taken and put on paper in Washington. All that given NATO's hostile stance towards Russia. Moscow also insists that NATO is unwilling to listen to Russia's concerns or any peace initiatives on settling the Ukrainian conflict. It also says that Kyiv's allegations that Russia deliberately hit a children's hospital in Kyiv is a provocation aimed at asking NATO for more military aid. Russia says NATO's aggression has led to the conflict in Ukraine in the first place, and the continuous supplies of weapons is also escalating the tensions. Moscow says that finding a negotiated solution is possible and Russia has never walked out from the negotiations table. Dasha Chernyshova in Moscow reporting for DD India.
Now, US President Joe Biden returns to the campaign trail on Wednesday, rallying the key constituency of Labour leaders as some fellow Democrats continue to persuade him not to run again. For the past 13 days, the 81-year-old Biden has been working to stem defections from Democratic lawmakers, donors and other allies worried that he might lose to Republican Donald Trump, who's 78 years old, after his halting 27th of June debate performance. Biden will join the AFL-CIO's Executive Council meeting in Washington on Wednesday to take questions from leaders of major U.S. labor unions and also discuss their shared commitment to defeating Donald Trump this November. As campaigning for U.S. presidential election gains momentum now, former U.S. President and Republican candidate Donald Trump took a jibe at President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris during a rally in Florida on Tuesday. He claimed that the Democratic Party can't decide which of their candidates is more unfit to be the president.
Whatever happened to common sense in government? We've got it. We've got more than anybody's ever had. Meanwhile, the radical left Democrat Party is divided in chaos and having a full-scale breakdown, all because they can't decide which of their candidates is more unfit to be president. Let's do another debate this week so that Sleepy Joe Biden can prove to everyone all over the world that he has what it takes to be president. But this time it will be man-to-man, no moderators, no holes barred. Just name the place, anytime, anywhere.
And now in DD India News Hour, it's time to take a look at other stories making news around the world. Russia's lower house of the parliament approved tax increases proposed by the finance ministry, targeting corporations and the wealthy. The new measures are expected to generate an additional $30 billion in revenue for next year's budget. Poland's Deputy Defense Minister stated on the 9th of July that the country is willing to take all necessary measures to address the migrant crisis at its border with Belarus. This may also involve closing the border as Poland considers its option. The border has become a point of tension, with Western officials alleging that Belarus is engaging in hybrid warfare by deliberately sending non-European migrants to Poland. Algerians celebrated the 62nd anniversary of their independence from French rule with a festival featuring horsemen in traditional attire, firing gunpowder rifles and performing ancestral customs. The event symbolizes the country's resistance movement and honors its heritage. Time to take a short break here on DD India News Hour, but still to come on the other side. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar to host his counterparts for the second BIMSTEC Foreign Ministers Retreat in New Delhi on the 11th and 12th of July. Equity benchmark indices experienced a significant pullback after reaching fresh record highs on Wednesday. Welcome back after that short break. You're watching DD India News Hour with me, Deepika, and now it's time to recap the top headlines of the hour. Prime Minister Narendra Modi reiterates not the time for war in India-Austria joint statement at Vienna. Prime Minister Narendra Modi also held a high-level business meeting with his Austrian counterpart. Prime Minister Narendra Modi received ceremonial reception at Federal Chancellery in Austria. Prime Minister signed the guest book at Federal Chancellery in Vienna. US President Joe Biden pledges to forcefully defend Ukraine against Russia at the NATO summit in Washington. New commitments of military aid to Ukraine also announced. Now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi received a grand welcome in Austria with the rendition of Vande Mataram. Praising the country's vibrant musical culture, Prime Minister tweeted, and I quote his tweet here, "Austria is known for its vibrant musical culture. I got a glimpse of it thanks to this amazing rendition of Vande Mataram," unquote. Earlier, DD India correspondent Gautam Roy interacted with a girl kid who came to welcome Prime Minister Narendra Modi in Vienna. The Prime Minister asked her name, got it noted down and said he will write a letter to her. Let's take a listen.
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi has just met a small contingent of the Indian diaspora when he arrived, a good mix of young and old and women and men. And these children also got to speak to him. You presented something to Prime Minister Modi today. What's your name, Rita? Vincy. What did you give to the PM?
A poster.
And what did it say?
Prime Minister won 3 times a prize.
Prime Minister was so courteous. So he saw the poster, he saw the painting, appreciated it, and then he turned it around and he asked, "Where's the name of the child?" And then he said, "Please give me the name of the child, and I want to write a letter to the child appreciating the efforts that she put in to make this painting." So it was really very, very, very humbling, and we really liked the Prime Minister's gesture.
Okay, wonderful. So that's what this visit would now mean to a future generation of the Indian diaspora here in Austria as well. That's the kind of imprint that perhaps this visit will leave here for all the Austrian people as well. This is Gautam Roy in Vienna, Austria for DD India.
And in an important milestone in India-Austria partnership, the Indian Prime Minister was hosted by Austrian Chancellor Karl Nehammer for a private engagement. This was the first meeting between the two leaders The Austrian Chancellor posted a photo of him and Prime Minister Narendra Modi on the social media platform X and wrote, "It's an honor to welcome Prime Minister Modi to Austria. Austria and India are friends and partners." Nehammer further wrote, he looks forward to the political and economic discussions between the two nations during Prime Minister Modi's visit. Now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi also thanked the Austrian Chancellor for the warm welcome and said he is looking forward to the discussions as well. Prime Minister further said our nations will continue working together to further the global good. While India already has a special place in the hearts of many Austrians and other nationalities who have made it their home over the years, including the Indian diaspora, Gautam Roy tells you why in this report.
Be it yoga, Ayurveda or traditional art and culture like Bharatanatyam, India has had a special place due to its soft power in distant lands for centuries. Radha Anjali, her given name by her Indian guru, is of Austrian parentage, married to an Iranian and running a Bharatanatyam school, Natya Mandir, in Austria's capital Vienna since the 80s. She says, as India has been gaining global prominence in recent years, interest in its art, culture and traditions has also been growing.
Performed almost all over Europe and in India, and well, I'm dancing the last maybe 45 years. Many years before, Indian culture was very much unknown, and during the last 10-20 years it is much more prominent.
Radha Anjali's students in Vienna come from different parts of the world as they are drawn to India's mesmerizing dance forms and classical music, apart from those with Indian origins looking to remain connected with their roots.
Born in India in Rajasthan actually, and just so we were quite disconnected from our culture originally, and it's a very good way to reconnect and to actually know more in detail what's the Indian culture all about.
I was always mesmerized by it, and I also grew up watching Bollywood and dance videos when I was in Bangladesh and also here, so it kind of was in me to like this kind of dances.
I did yoga, a lot of yoga. I did my study in yoga at yoga teacher, and I were in Indian, and it was for me completely wow, Bharatanatyam.
I did Bharatanatyam a bit when I was a child in Sri Lanka, and I took a break due to a number of reasons. And after coming to Vienna, I wanted to get back to dancing. I was doing a bit of African dancing, but I felt that I needed to get back to Bharatanatyam. It just feels more connected.
As India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi visits Austria, it's only natural for all things Indian to figure even more prominently in the host country, leading to more awareness, interactions and proximities between the two cultures and people. India has always had deep wells of art, culture and traditional knowledge to draw from for any individual from any part of the world. But with rising consciousness about India, its economic prowess or even the capabilities of its individuals, there are imprints of India now all over the world, and Austria is no stranger to it. With camera person Pramod Negi, Gautam Roy in Vienna for DD India.
Well, External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar will host his counterparts for the second BIMSTEC Foreign Ministers Retreat in New Delhi on the 11th and 12th of July. Discussions will be held to broaden and deepen the cooperation across various sectors, including in the fields of security, connectivity, trade and investment, people-to-people connect, etc. in the Bay of Bengal region and littoral. The first edition of the BIMSTEC Foreign Ministers Retreat was held in Bangkok, Thailand on the 17th of July 2023. The BIMSTEC retreat brings together 7 countries of South and Southeast Asia for multifaceted cooperation. In an effort to deepen diplomatic ties with neighbouring countries, India stands ready to share the benefits of Prime Minister or the PM Gati Shakti platform with Sri Lanka. The Commons, as an Indian delegation led by advisor in the Ministry of External Affairs, Anish Kumar, visited Sri Lankan capital Colombo on Tuesday for a 2-day visit. The PM Gati Shakti platform is aimed at integrated infrastructure development in India and is a program that is the secret behind India's rapid infrastructural developments in recent years. The delegation met Sri Lanka's Minister of Ports, Shipping and Aviation, Nimal Sripala de Silva, and several senior officials. Search operations were resumed on Wednesday morning in Jammu and Kashmir's Doordarshan district, where firing exchanges have taken place between the security forces and the terrorists on Tuesday. The authorities have roped in the National Investigation Agency, deployed special forces and widened their search to cover vast areas in Udhampur and Kathua district. The forces are searching for the perpetrators of the deadly attack on an army patrol in Kathua district, in which 5 soldiers were martyred. At least 18 people were killed and 19 others injured after the bus they were travelling in collided with a milk container in North Indian city of Unnao early on Wednesday morning. The double-decker bus was travelling from Bihar Sitamarhi to Delhi when it rammed the milk container from the back on the Lucknow-Agra expressway. A probe has been launched into the matter. President of India, Draupadi Murmu, has condoled the loss of lives in the Unnao bus accident and wished speedy recovery to those injured. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has now announced an ex gratia of 2 lakh rupees from PMNRF, which is Prime Minister National Relief Fund, for the next of kin of each deceased in the mishap in Unnao. The injured would be given a sum of 50,000 rupees. Well, the 4th India GCC Food and Beverage Buyer-Seller Meet began in Dubai, uniting prominent figures in the industry from India and the Gulf Cooperation Council. The event, hosted by the Trade Promotion Council of India, seeks to enhance trade ties and introduce innovative Indian products to the GCC market. Speaking on the occasion, K. Kalimuttu, Council Trade and Commerce, highlighted the growing trade relationship between India and the UAE. He further noted that bilateral trade reached over $85 billion last year.
We have signed this comprehensive economic partnership agreement 2 years back. Since then, we have seen an uptrend in the bilateral trade. So last year it was 85 plus billion US dollar. So in that trade sector alone contributed about 9%, which is about 3 billion US dollar. India's export.
As the Union Budget 2024-25 approaches, micro, small and medium enterprises are hopeful of significant relief. They are seeking some relaxation in taxes, streamlined GST processes and overall improvements in ease of doing business. Now, this is crucial for the sector that encompasses 63 million registered enterprises. Here's a report that tells you more.
The MSME sector accounts for 30% of the country's gross domestic product or GDP. It's the second largest employer after agriculture. The share of exports from products specified for MSMEs constitute 45.5% of the country's total exports. The government can play a pivotal role in driving technology adoption across MSMEs by providing financial incentives, framing supporting policies, and setting up an R&D fund for MSMEs.
Our goal is that the value addition today, which is at about 18 to 20%, doubles to about 35 to 40% in the next 5 years, and we are able to take forward the component manufacturing ecosystem, and there the role of MSMEs is going to be really significant.
There are 3 key challenges constraining sustainable growth in the MSME sector: get paid, get capital, and get digital.
By using digital tools, MSMEs can gain access to much wider markets and supply chains and get discovered by millions of consumers in India and the globe.
India's MSME network, currently housing 633.9 lakh enterprises, hold immense potential to drive India's mission of becoming the 3rd largest global economy by 2027 and achieving Viksit Bharat by 2047. MSMEs have emerged as the backbone of India's economy and are playing a critical role in propelling innovation across the country. Bureau Report, DD India.
Time now to take a short break here on News Hour, but still to come on the other side. India marks a significant milestone with just 50 days remaining until the Paris Paralympics. Defending Wimbledon champion Carlos Alcaraz returns to the semi-finals.
Voice of a rising aspirational world. Stories of challenges, struggles and accomplishment. A world battling conflict, hunger and poverty. Embracing growth, development, science and technology. A voice of progress, a voice of unity. Watch Voice of the Global South with me, Akshay Dongre, only on DD India.
Welcome back after that short break. You're watching DD India News Hour with me, Deepika. And now time to get you all the latest from the world of business. Well, Asian stocks today circled near two-year highs on Wednesday on growing bets of imminent US rate cuts, while the New Zealand dollar slid after its central bank signalled greater confidence that inflation was coming to heel. The Reserve Bank of New Zealand held its cash rate steady at 5.5% on Wednesday as expected, but noted that inflation was expected to return to its target range of 1% to 3% in the second half of the year. Meanwhile, Japan's Nikkei shares average rose to an intraday peak in a choppy session on Wednesday as financial shares outperformed and investors snapped up stocks to get in on the latest rally. The market broadened towards the end of trading to spur the Nikkei 225 to a record high of 41,889.16 points. The benchmark indices closed up 0.61% at an all-time closing high of 41,831.99, while the broader topics finished 0.47% higher at a record closing peak of 2,909.2. India's domestic equity markets experienced a significant pullback after reaching fresh record highs on Wednesday. BSE 30 share Sensex tanked over 400 points on widespread profit booking, while NSE Nifty dropped 109 points to settle at 24,324. Rising uncertainty over interest rate cut by the US Federal Reserve also added to the weak trend in domestic equities. Among sectors, auto, bank, capital goods, IT, telecom, media and metal down 0.4 to 0.2%, while FMCG, healthcare, power and oil and gas ended in the green. The BSE mid-cap index was down 0.2%, while small cap shed 0.7%. The National Samsung Electronics Union in South Korea declared another indefinite strike in a statement on Wednesday. The statement comes after a three-day strike kicked off on Monday, demanding better pay. 30,000 members of the NSEU make up about 24% of the firm's South Korean workforce. The NSEU are also demanding an extra day of annual leave for unionized workers. The union flagged further action against the tech giant that should demands not be met. Nikola Tesla was undoubtedly one of the most prolific inventors of his time, a mastermind inventor who shaped some groundbreaking inventions as well. He was credited with close to 300 patents for his innovations in the history. DD India's Taposh Bhattacharya reports.
Nikola Tesla was born on 10th of July 1856 in Croatia, then part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. His father was a priest in the Serbian Orthodox Church and his mother managed the family's farm. In 1863, a tragic accident claimed the life of Tesla's brother Daniel. The shock of this loss deeply affected the 7-year-old Nikola. Tesla's journey was filled with challenges. After an unsuccessful attempt to start his own Tesla Electric Light Company, he found backers to support his groundbreaking research into alternating current or AC. In 1887 and 1888, Tesla was granted over 30 patents for his inventions. His work caught the eye of George Westinghouse, a key figure in the battle of the currents against Thomas Edison. Westinghouse hired Tesla, licensed his AC motor patents and provided him with a lab. Tesla continued to innovate in 1890s, creating electric oscillators, meters, improved lights and high voltage transformer known as Tesla coil. He experimented with X-rays, demonstrated radio communication before Marconi and piloted a radio control boat at the Madison Square Garden. Together with Westinghouse, Tesla illuminated the 1893 World's Columbian Exposition in Chicago and helped install AC generators at the Niagara Falls, establishing the first modern power station. Perhaps the most well-known symbol of Tesla's work is the Tesla coil. It is a transformer that produces high voltage, low current, high frequency alternating current electricity. In 1895, a fire destroyed Tesla's New York lab, erasing years of work. On this day, we honor Nikola Tesla, a visionary whose innovations continue to power the world. Tapash Bhattacharya's report, TD India.
And now in DD India News Hour, it's time to get you all the latest from the world of sports. To begin with cricket first. India skipper Shubman Gill won the toss and opted to bat against Zimbabwe in the third T20 International of the 5-match series. T20 World Cup winners Sanju Samson, Yashasvi Jaiswal and Shivam Dube have been named in the playing 11. Apart from that, pacer Khalil Ahmed has also been making his return to the team. Mukesh Kumar, Dhruv Churel, Riyan Parag have been rested for this. On the other hand, Zimbabwe have also made 2 changes in the lineup. Recovering from a shock 13-run defeat in the opening game, India responded with a thumping 100-run victory over the hosts in the second match. With the series tied at 1-1, India will be aiming to take the lead forward. India's legendary batter Sunil Gavaskar has turned 75 years old today. Former Indian captain and one of the greatest opening batters of all time, who played 125 tests along with 101 one-day internationals for India. Well, he was also the first batter to score over 10,000 runs in test cricket with 34 centuries. In the shorter format, the master batter made 3,092 runs with an unbeaten 103 as his highest. Born in Mumbai on the 10th of July in 1949, Sunil Gavaskar or Sunny Gavaskar dominated fast bowlers with his unbreachable defence and near-perfect batting technique as well. He played international cricket from 1971 to 1987. He was also a part of the World Cup winning team back in the year 1983. And now he works as a commentator. And in soccer, the Netherlands are all set to take fight against England in the second Euro semi-final in Dortmund. England have limped into the last 4 with tepid performances against opponents they should have beaten easily, while the Netherlands were 20 minutes from elimination before their quarter-final fight back against Turkey. The Netherlands have the edge in the attack. They have scored 9 goals at Euro, coming from 20 attempts on target against 50 by an England side. Now, England's shootout victory over Switzerland brought momentary euphoria, but it was more relief than redemption, and the semi-final match may require a transformation in attack for them to reach a third major tournament final. India marks a significant milestone with just 50 days remaining until the Paris Paralympics, celebrating the spirit and determination of its para-athletes who are set to make their mark on the global stage. The event, held in New Delhi on Tuesday, brought together esteemed guests, dignitaries and athletes who shared their excitement and readiness for the upcoming Games starting the 28th of August. Key athletes Ashok and Mona Agrawal were also present on the occasion, showcasing their readiness and determination ahead of the Paralympics. In tennis, defending Wimbledon champion Carlos Alcaraz returned to the semi-finals with an enthralling comeback on Tuesday. Having taken his Grand Slam tally to 3 at the French Open last month, Alcaraz pushed on in his quest to retain a major trophy for the first time and cement his big league status by rallying past American Tommy Paul by 5-7, 6-4, 6-2 and 6-2. Yannick Sinner was heavily backed to succeed at the grass-court Grand Slam, but the ailing 22-year-old came crashing down to earth against 5th seed Daniel Medvedev. Sinner put up a brave fight after a timeout due to illness, but the Italian was unable to prevent a defeat. Jasmine Paoloni cruised to a 6-2, 6-1 victory at Wimbledon to set up a meeting with Croatian Tona Vekic, who ended the extraordinary run of the qualifier Lula's son. Vekic had serious doubts about the durability of her knee after surgery in 2021 and considered quitting, but she now finds herself in a maiden semi-final on the grandest festival. Participants, including international visitors, took part in the fourth running of the bulls during the San Fermin festival in Spain's Pamplona. The event, which was completed in 2 minutes and 18 seconds, left one person injured. And that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download it right now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I am Deepika Mehto, and from all of us here in New Delhi, thank you so much for watching DD India News Hour. Namaskar.